Hey everyone, this is Andy Hall. You're watching an episode of The Best Advice Ever, the show where wonderful, fantastic people come on and talk about the best advice they ever heard. With me today is Scientist Mel. Scientist Mel, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
You know, I am healthy. I'm in my fortress of solitude.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so I've been in my fortress of solitude for way too long.
I understand that feeling.
Yeah. But I'm doing well. For people who aren't acquainted with you and your channel, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. So I'm a science communicator, but I'm also a chemistry professor, kind of a budding one. But, there you go. So on my channel, I talk about a lot of different science related news. I also talk about harder concepts, kind of break it down a little bit. We also have a really funny show that we do. Well, first of all, my proper science show is on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. It's the Science of. And then on Sundays, I think it's usually in the evenings, about 6:30 p.m. Central. 6:30 p.m. Central. We do This Week in BS with Nervardia, who's also known as Marrow. And that's This Week in Bad Science. And that one tends to be a scream, but I've also had other shows in the past. Or Audacity is really funny as well, where we kind of break down some really bad science as well. So check it out if you want.
Cool. I was on your channel checking up on what's going on, what you've been up to. And, I hope your family's doing okay. I know that a bunch of people had COVID within your family.
Yes, my sister's family is recovering from it, and now my mother and stepdad have it. And so they're in their 60s though. So it's a bit scarier for them. And I just found this out yesterday.
Wow.
My mom and stepdad have it. I'm not certain how they got it. I know they wear masks, but other people don't. So
yeah,
there you go.
It boggles the brain about how people just seem so resistant to
Yes.
wearing a face mask.
Yeah, they consider it some kind of oppressive thing, like, oh, you're trampling my rights. I'm like, no, wearing a mask is not that much different than wearing a seatbelt. You have to kind of adjust when new problems show up. We're like, oh, this could kill people, so we probably need to slow down the killing of people. So that's what we do. And so, but for whatever reason, that doesn't register.
Has it been? Have you found one line of reasoning better than the others when discussing the topic with people who are resistant to putting on masks?
No, not a reasonable, no reasonable explanation or possible rebuttal other than I can't breathe when it's on there, and it doesn't protect the mask anyway, which doesn't protect you from getting virus, which to me is hilarious because we know that oxygen, O2 molecules, are way smaller than a big virus. Okay, so if you have holes where the virus can come through, the same size holes, you tiny little oxygen molecules can come through as well. It's just people freak out when stuff covers their mouths, I guess. That might be like a little bit of a fear there.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it as some kind of instinctual kind of reaction to having your mouth.
So people don't like the idea of having their mouths and nose and stuff covered. It kind of freaks them out. And then you run into, I hate clowns. I absolutely hate clowns. Wow. And that comes from a fear of strangers is what I've learned. So, because you can't see their faces. And so people who wear masks, it also might be like a little bit of I can't see their face. What if they were trying to hurt me? So I think that's more of the lizard brain kind of going, oh my God, I can't see this person's face. I don't want to cover my mouth and nose. I'm scared. So it's just, but that's why we have our rational side to kick in and go, hey, it's going to be all right. But that doesn't always work so great.
This is true. I just want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Tobin Templeman, hello. Dr. Osiris, hello. Glad you all showed up. And of course, Ian Davenport. So what do you teach? I mean, you're a chemistry teacher. Do you teach at the college level?
Yes. Yep. So I teach general chemistry, also intro to chemistry. People have asked if I would consider organic chemistry. I will think about it, but I still have a little bit of panic attacks thinking about organic chemistry when I took it. So,
Oh, really?
Organic chemistry. That's the weed out class.
I had no idea.
That's
I
a
thought it
weed
was
out.
about carbon. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a chemist. I was a psychology major, which, maybe science, maybe not. But carbon was there explosions? Was there fire?
No. It's scary because, okay, so if you're pre-med, you have to take organic chemistry. If you're a pharmacy student, you have to take organic chemistry. If you're a biology student, you have to take organic chemistry. If you're a chemistry student, you have to take organic chemistry, or even biochemistry, whatever. So organic is one of the weed out classes because it's difficult. It is very difficult to understand. I mean, because carbon can make all kinds of different shapes because it can make 4 bonds. And so it's a whole lot of how's carbon feeling when it's around this atom? And you're like, oh my God, what? And then what shape is it going to form? That's the lowest energy possible. You don't want it to have too much energy. So it's the only thing that got me through was like freaking model kits that were bendy. And I'm like, okay, what's the lowest energy conformation of this? So organic scares a lot of people and it has a high failure rate.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yes, it does. It does. It tends to have a high failure rate because there's so much information. You have to learn about SN1, SN2 reactions. You have to learn about what's a leaving group on a carbon molecule. It's just a lot of knowledge in a very short period of time. And you need it for biochemistry. And if you were taking a course on pharmaceuticals, then that's a whole lot of what shape is the carbon molecule. So
fascinating. I took an experimental course as an undergraduate, and and the professor who I had said, psychology professors hate teaching this course because you can be wrong.
I'm wrong too.
Yeah. So this is a good point. This is a good place. This is as good a place as any to talk about the best advice you ever had.
Oh, wow. The best advice I ever had. Let's see. I don't know. I think the best running advice I ever had is something that my mom, and she learned it. It was like a quote that she used to tell me on how we react to problems. Okay. Or how we react. We can't control what other people do. We control how we react. And so it is better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. That has helped me across the board in so many situations, to where if I have somebody just, sitting there going, you're a terrible person and you're mean and you're horrible, I'm like, okay. And I just say, okay, and then I just let them rant and rant and rant. And I'm like, can I go home now? Are you finished? But I also do that on YouTube, where you'll have people that have done 3-hour live streams talking about how horrible I am. And I'm like, okay. And they'll sit there and do stuff. I've had smear campaigns because somebody didn't like me. Usually it's all men who are doing this. So shocker.
Yeah.
One time it wasn't a man. It was a trans woman, but the rest of the time they're dudes who just are like, well, I hate her and she's this. And then I get a lot of crap sometimes on the internet, usually from men. Yeah. So I just sit there and go, okay, well, you're this. All right. You're right. I'm a completely terrible, horrible person. And I spend all day thinking of ways to completely destroy you because I have nothing better to do with my life. And then they look stupid. By the time it's all done, they always look stupid.
If I was going to do a graph on this, and I'm not a big graph person, there might be a negative correlation between how happy a person is, a hater is in their own personal romantic relationships to how much crap they give you. So in other words, the more miserable they are, or maybe they're just not getting any, Mel. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. They're just not getting any, and they're just focusing in on women on the internet to spread their hate, to just project.
The involuntary celibates, or what we call incels.
The incels, that's right. And that's what I perceived from talking with people and just noticing it. You can't go online without noticing it. That there's a lot of incels out there online who just don't like people with vaginas.
Yeah, well, they've probably never seen one before. And so there's some big conspiracy to keep them from it, when really you're just being an asshole. So you're just, don't do that.
The advice of better to be quiet and not open your mouth, to show people that you are foolish. It's important. I think it's a Twain quote. And, since you're teaching at college level, I remember being an undergraduate and doing graduate work, writing down questions before asking the question, because I didn't want to seem like the person who's either brown-nosing with the professor, though I understand it's helpful at times, but I'm just not that kind of person. Or I just didn't want to be an idiot. And just because once I started writing out the question, it's like, oh, well, I can now figure out that answer on my own. And I don't have to answer, and I don't have to actually ask it.
Yeah. I still like it when people ask me questions, particularly if they can figure it out on their own, because there's other people in the class who may not know how to figure it out on their own. And I promise you, whatever question that one student has, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 others that have the same question, and maybe they're just too scared to ask. So it's always nice to ask questions.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. I never, and this goes for, when I'm at work or when I had a job before the, pandemic started, when I was in meetings, I never felt the need to, and I felt maybe it's my Baptist upbringing, Mel. Maybe this is more about me than you right now, but I always felt like I didn't want to eat up too much time with something unnecessarily, right?
Yes, I'm kind of the same way. I tend to be very quiet in meetings. And if it's like meetings with a whole lot of people, I'll just sit there and be quiet, because I actually used to teach high school, and I really hated teacher in service. I really hated it so much because it was required. It was hours worth of us sitting here listening to somebody talk about how we could do better, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But then you have all of these people asking questions for like another hour afterwards. And I'm like, y'all, for real, were you even paying attention? I mean, just, were you paying attention? I want to go to lunch. Why are you still asking? And that's just, so yeah, I get that too. I understand. Right.
Have you ever given that before now, of course, have you ever given that advice to anybody else?
Yes.
Wow, that was emphatic.
Yes. I like it because, it helps in a lot of situations, whether it's work or friendship or romantic or internet or anything. People are emotionally reactive. They're often very emotionally reactive. I have been accused of being cold because I've been very direct with people, right? And I try to use nice words, but sometimes I just say, this is what it says. This is what's going on. They're like, why are you being so cold to me? Like, no, I'm just quoting your words to you. You don't like your own words.
Yeah.
That's not my problem. So, but you have a lot of individuals with emotional immaturity.
Yes.
And so I just, that's just been advice that's helped me really early on, because the people who are going to overreact are the ones that are going to look foolish, even if they're correct, even if I've done something that's wrong. If they keep going on about it,
Yeah.
Even though I've said, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry. And if they keep going and going and going and going, then they're going to look ridiculous, and it's going to be more harmful for them than what I could ever do. So I don't have to do anything. They're just going to run themselves into the ground. So
you'll find this. You might appreciate this story. I'm a father. My son was in high school a couple of years ago. He's out now. And I got called in because he was just telling people he was just speaking up, in class. He raised his hands and everything, but he just said things, Mel. He said things that he thought without really screening it through the too much. It was some uncensored information that people perhaps were not ready to hear.
Yeah.
So afterwards, on the when he came home that day, it's like, it helps if you're funny. I'm just going to say that. It helps.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Ooh. Yeah, I guess if you can take something that's horrible and make it funny, that softens the blow, I suppose. Softens it a bit, like with all the Trump stuff and the freaking coup d'etat that happened. I found a picture of a Highland coup, which is a cow, and then the dude that was dressed with the horns, and this says coup, attempted coup.
Oh, I saw that. So the Highland cow, it's the shaggy one. Is it the shaggy cow? Right.
Covered in hair. It's just like really long hair. And so that was so funny. I thought this is hilarious. And and it's a little bit dark and a bit irreverent, but he looked like a freaking cow, or at least a Chewbacca bikini with horns. And so you're going, okay, he was attempting coup.
Well, you can see why people would get upset because of the fact that they don't understand. Now they're gonna have to learn a word, Mel. They're gonna have to learn a word. They're gonna have to learn a word, and that makes people angry and confused, or maybe confused and angry.
Yes, I know. Being a science communicator and also chemistry professor, certain words freak people out just because they're big, long, scary. And so trying to break it down to where it's manageable and accessible language, that's always a challenge, particularly when you're dealing with science terminology on the internet or in a classroom,
Right. Do you have any crazy stories about confronting science illiteracy, science willful ignorance in the classroom?
Yeah, my first year as a high school teacher,
really?
Teaching evolution in the Bible Belt. I had a kid, and your first year is like a gauntlet. And that's why I tell people, I think it's crazy that people will get education degrees and then go into the field and then teach. And then they go, I hate this. So I got science degrees first. And then I was like, let me try teaching high school. And so since science degrees are, it's hard to fill science positions, they just throw you in the classroom and then you take courses for your education degree on the side. And so, I was taking master's level courses because I got 2 master's degrees. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay. So this kid is, from the beginning, I was learning classroom management, didn't understand I just jumped right in. Yeah. And so when it came time for evolution, this kid, he was just like, well, I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Bible. And it was really hard to navigate all of that.
Yeah.
Because so many of those students, I knew what they were being told in their churches because I grew up out here. So I knew what they were being told. So that was a huge lesson for me, because that kid ended up being made a martyr because I had to remove him from my classroom. And then I had another student who was quietly an atheist who was really upset by all of that. And so phone calls from the martyr parents, phone calls from the atheist parents, And then, it was a freaking nightmare. So I learned from then that I had to completely talk about the elephant in the room at the beginning of the school year and go, look, we're going to talk about evolution.
Yeah.
I'm never going to tell you what to think. I'm going to teach you how to think. I just want to make certain you understand what it is. You think whatever you want. It's all good. And so I had to completely remove the argument. We're not going to argue about science in here. Just like I wouldn't expect you to bring me your car if you were, if it was broken, because I don't have a degree in car repair. I don't have a degree in religion. Go to your pastor if you want to talk about religion. They're the expert, not me. So that removed it. And that was more successful in the future. But man, that martyrdom about Jesus this and Jesus that just took it as an opportunity to turn it into a pulpit.
Yeah. Well, at least it wasn't a full-blown riot.
True. True. It was
not that would happen.
Riot. Although I have had a fight in my classroom before. 2 now, actually.
I assume it wasn't about evolution.
No, it was 2 people that just hated each other, Oh my God. That was a hot mess.
I can see there's a lot of carryover skills between managing a high school class and being on the internet.
Yes, there is. And then people start running their mouths. You're like, okay, you go in timeout.
Right. Yeah, I've worked with people with disabilities for a few decades. I'll just say that. And being able to de-escalate people, redirect people, it does come in handy in real life as well as here doing this, whatever we do or whatever I do. I know what you do. I don't know what I do yet. Maybe I'll never know.
That's okay.
Scientist Mel, I had a lot of fun. This was a really good conversation.
This was a lot of fun.
The idea about being prudent with words. I try to be. I talk a lot, but I try to be prudent with them.
I'm very direct with people. I mean exactly what I say. And sometimes what I say may not be the things that they want to hear. And sometimes people take that as being unkind or meanness. And, but you encounter a lot of that when people are wrong about a thing and they don't like the feeling of being wrong, Yeah.
Well, it's, I think one of the most important character attributes to really nurture as a skeptic is being comfortable as possible with being incorrect.
Yes.
I think that is something, and I don't know if there's a Stoic practice for that.
Yeah, it's called grad school. That's what it's called. When people are like, you need to develop a thicker skin, I'm like, no, that's not it at all. You go stand in front of your committee for 2 hours, and there's about 100 years worth of chemistry experience between them. And their whole job is to figure out what your weakness is. Yeah. So where they question you and they question you and they question you. And when they find the weakness, oh, that's something she doesn't know. Let's zero in on that. Let's see how much she doesn't know. And so when you go through that experience, you're like, some person goes, you're a stupid poopy head on the internet. You're like, okay, just move. Are you being constructive here? Nah, I don't care what you say. Right. Oh, I know you don't care. Then why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's mean. I think that's, I don't want to deal with you. So.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned this before on my channel. I've done some volunteer work with Extinction Rebellion, and their strategy is not to talk to people who are really diametrically opposed to your point, because that is just using up a lot of resources, time, energy. It's more about talking to people who are able to be swayed.
Right. They're on the fence.
Exactly. Who are on the fence. If you're going to spend, we're human beings. We're only here for a short period of time. If you're trying to change hearts and minds, the people on the fence, the people who aren't diametrically opposed to you, those are the people that you can probably sway. That's easy to sway.
There's an interesting study that was done on, it was a concept called immunity community. and you can look it up. There was a paper that was done that showed people who, anti-vaxxers, essentially. Anti-vaxxers who have made their mind up, you're not going to sway them. But the people on the fence, the ones who aren't sure, those are the ones that you need to kind of talk to, but you can't be terribly ugly about the anti-vaxxers, or they're gonna like, oh, okay, they're being abusive now. I feel a bit of sympathy for them. But they also found that rather than having doctors talk to the people on the fence, they had other parents do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
The parents came up and they were like, hey, I had my kids vaccinated. Everything's fine. Look, they're over there playing on the playground. That was more effective on swaying the people on the fence. And so, relating to your audience is really, really important.
True enough. It's basic counterinsurgency strategy is that if you want to reach out or affect hearts and minds in a certain community, you try to use people within that community to spread the word. So once again, if you're trying to convince anti-vax parents to vaccinate their kids, the best people to use are parents. The best people to use are people who were once anti-vaxxers and are parents and now vaccinate their kids.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly true.
Yeah. So Iron Cherry there says, hello, Mel, or hey, all.
Hello. Good to see you there, guys, in the chat.
Yeah, definitely. This has been a lot of fun. And once again, Ace is on the Jedi hoodie that you got going, that you're rocking there.
Thank you. The force is strong with this one.
Right. Awesome. What do you got going on? You got any projects coming on or any new videos dropping?
Hopefully I will be back on this weekend. I've taken a bit of a break from the holidays. Had some family with the Rona, new family with the Rona. So vibes and fingers crossed that they'll be okay. They received antibody treatments, which are really good. That should slow the progression of the virus until their immune system can build up more antibodies. But I should have a show this Saturday. Fingers crossed that everything's all right and nothing crazy is happening. Don't know about Sunday yet. Have to check with Mero. But I will be doing, I have a new project that I'm working on where I'm developing open education resources that are collegiate level for chemistry. Oh. And it's based on a textbook that you can get for free on the internet. OpenStax.
Did you just say a textbook for free?
Yeah, the digital version is free. I paid like $35-$40 for the hardback. Okay. And it's a thick freaking book. And it's shiny. So I will be developing videos as well as digital labs that coincide with this. So it's part of what I want to do is develop open education resources that are associated with a textbook that you can get digitally. I kind of already do that anyway with my job, but this would just be an extension of my science communication work to where people could actually learn, college general chemistry within, a year's worth of chemistry for you. And P.Z. Myers will be doing the biology version of that this summer. So that'll be cool.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
You're doing the good Lord's work, the fictitious Lord. I'm
doing the work of Sagan, Lord Sagan.
Hail
Sagan.
So Scientist Mel, where can people find you online?
I have a website, scientistmel.com. I've got articles there. I also have a shop there if you like sciencey stuff. And I do have a section in my store where proceeds are donated to different charities and activist groups. You can also find me on YouTube, Scientist Mel. I'm there as well. Just Google Scientist Mel and you will find things.
Good things too.
Good things too.
Your YouTube channel is in the description if people want to check it out. And otherwise, hey, everyone in the chat, thanks for showing up. This has been fun. I love doing 2 shows in a day. I did the morning show from 9 to 10, or approximately 9 to 10, and talking with Scientist Mel. Fantastic and fun. That's what this was. Thanks again. I know you've been really busy, Scientist Mel, and this has been educational.
I'm so glad. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thanks. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
And